Gives me great pleasure to introduce the speaker of the day, Dr. Professor Somnath Ghosh, who is here with us to speak on high performance concrete. He's an academician, BE, MTech, PhD, MBA, MI Structural Engineering, London. He's serving civil engineering. He was serving civil engineering department of Jadavpur University for the last 38 years. He served as a full-time professor since 1993. Dr. Ghosh has served as Dean of the Faculty of Engineering and Technology of Jadavpur University. He has successfully guided a number of students for their PhD thesis and ME thesis. He has acted as expert member on several occasions for CSIR, AICTE, UGC, IIT, NIT, and other institutes. He has contributed significantly in the area of high performance concrete, geopolymer composites, and FEM analysis of concrete structures. Apart from his research activities, Dr. Ghosh has demonstrated his technical skill by acting as a consultant on a number of occasions for PWD, KMDA, KMC, HSCL, NBCC. Repair and restoration techniques adopted for around 250 earthquake damaged structures of Kandla Special Economic Zone through his expertise deserves a special mention. His skill in computer-aided structural analysis has been demonstrated through the design of a Buddha statue of 52-meter tall on the top of a hill at Namchi in Sikkim, a cricket stadium at Guwahati, a 22-meter high horse statue at Imphal. His selection as the country head of a division in a multinational company at Nigeria speaks volume about his administrative as well as academic skills and expertise. He has gained a valuable administrative experience during his stay in Nigeria and also by serving as a consultant at national level for a long period of time. Dr. Ghosh has contributed immensely both in academics as well as in practice through his activities and also gained a good amount of academic, industrial, and administrative experiences. And he has become popular personality among the professionals. So that is Dr. Somnath Ghosh to all of us, and we are sure that we would be having number of takeaways because of his both practical as well as his academic experience. So I would request all the audience to pay attention, and you can always chat through the chat box. Please leave your comments and any questions which are there, we would be taking towards the end of the talk. So we wish all the participants a very healthy knowledge session for today evening. Over to you, Dr. Somnath Ghosh, sir, for your presentation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, Pillai, Anirban,
Good evening, sir.
and also Suraj. For this particular presentation for a long time. I was not getting time. Anyway, today actually I'll be discussing on high performance concrete for 21st century. Why I have mentioned 21st century? It is basically, you know about concrete technology for a long time. And, Mr. Pillai told you about different types of cement, its use, all these things. But frankly speaking, what is the need for, today's world? That why we need high performance concrete? What is that? And what is the complexity of that particular product? So all these things, I'll try to discuss to you, because you all professionals, if you know the ins and outs of this particular technology, then you can develop on it, and in future it will be much better. And I hope that this particular discussion will be helpful to you. So with this, I would like to formally start the presentation. And the high performance concrete, when you are talking about, you are not talking about only strength. You are not talking about workability. It is obviously ductility and durability. Those who have got their degree in 80s or before that, they never thought that the ductility aspect, durability aspect will be discussed in detail in future. And now, we have reached to that stage. We can, easily describe ductility, durability, and depending on the requirement of the particular structure, we can develop all these 4 parameters. Now, before I go to the, some kind of experimental results, some kind of application in the industry, the results and graphs and all these things. I would like to first tell you about this particular material, means concrete and especially high performance concrete, and what exactly we have to keep in mind so that we can achieve this kind of material, because we are saying high performance concrete, not only concrete. It's not ordinary concrete. So, the important aspects are, durability and permeability. Nowadays, everywhere that the pumping is very important, because if you construct a very high-rise building, you cannot take the concrete on head. You have to use the pump. The pumpability is a very important aspect. Shrinkage, it is very, very important. It was every time we discuss about shrinkage. Heat generation is also important. And I tell you, this permeability and durability I have taken together. Why? Because I personally think that these two are linked. You cannot, isolate durability without permeability or permeability without durability. These two are linked. So I'll come to this point one another. Now you see that when you are talking about durability and permeability, try calcium aluminate and the calcium hydroxide. These are very important things. These are present in cement and alkali silica reaction, which is possible in concrete. Now you see, if you have to, consider the possible strategies to limit the negative occurrence, whatever I told you just now, that is, you have to limit the total alkali, sodium plus potassium in cement, and you have to test the aggregates for reactivity. And you see, if you can provide excess silica, which you can get from fly ash, silica fumes, and other natural provers, then it's good, because it will consume the presence of alkali, and you will slowly you will understand that if you can eliminate alkali to some extent in concrete, in final concrete, it is always good. Now you see this, there are a few problems. The problems is that incomplete compaction, you all know, is happening, and ultimately resulting to segregation. Then micro cracks resulting from drying shrinkage, thermal stresses. Then bleeding settlement is a real problem, and the pores or capillaries and the distribution of pore and their discontinuity is also important, because that the moisture movement depends mostly on this. Now you see, this bleeding is a source of continuous and semi-continuous, isn't it? You know it. And the process occurs on a larger scale around the coarse aggregate particles, and eventually the whole mass of the concrete settles slightly, leaving a film of water on the surface. So you all know it, but still I'm repeating, just refreshing your knowledge. Then the reduction of permeability. This is, by avoiding bleeding, you can avoid. By blocking the channels after formation, you can really, it's a good thing, you can do it. And, pore blocking takes place as the cement continuously to hydrate and extends the gel. The gels are formed and the pores are blocked. Now, if we totally complete the pore, that is not always I'm recommending, because I'll discuss that. But, to the maximum extent, if we get the advantage out of it, we should try to, minimize the pores, because this will affect the durability and this will affect the strength also. Now, this requires well cured, and the water cement ratio must be very low. So don't use high water cement ratio, because when we are talking about high performance concrete, and there is no place for high water cement ratio. Now you see, aspects is, mortar in concrete consists of a massless particle saturated with water, which is trying to escape in presence of more water, lead to bleeding. You all know, the better the particle packed together, the more difficult it will be the water to pass through this mass. This is common sense. And cement, slag, fly ash, entrained air, silica fumes, right? I'm telling you increasing order of effectiveness, right? Are good inhibitor of bleeding. Because why I'm talking about bleeding? Because bleeding is very, very important in case of high performance concrete. Silica fumes is the most effective inhibitor. It may be many times finer than cement, even it may be 10 to 15 times finer than cement particles, uh, and it fills the space in between the cements, and small amount of are not in many situations is sufficient, but excess amount is not really required. It is costly also. Effectiveness of silica fumes is greatly reduced if it is incompletely dispersed. This is very, very important. Those who are, manufacturing RMC, they should know, because high performance concrete, in presence of this admixtures, pasteurizers, the RMC is the place where they can manufacture it easily. This means that silica film should always be used in conjunction with a super pasteurizer and a given mixing time. So you have to mix it, add in, you have to give some time. And then the question comes, the pumpability. This is very, very important in case of high-rise building construction. To some extent, pumpability is equated to the resistance to bleeding. To some extent, not only this is the factor. Now, blockage, the pumping failure occurs when the mix segregates under pressure. Segregation of mortar occurs due to gap-graded aggregates. Bleeding of water and or segregation of cement paste may occur due to gap-graded aggregates. So you have to avoid this. Check it. Now, the pumpability is best assured if all sizes of aggregates, particles, different types of aggregates are present, not really equal. You have to go for a mixed design properly. Just I'm telling you the spirit of the mixed design. In particular, any two consecutive sizes should together retain at least 8 to 10% of the total volume of concrete for good pumpability. These are all observations, and it is not that always it will happen like that. But the high performance concrete is a mixture of many things. So I'll discuss those things one after another. I'll come. Now the shrinkage. Shrinkage is generally drying shrinkage, although further shrinkage may take place during its existence due to carbonation, and the shrinkage occurs due to the contraction of hardened cement paste when it loses water. The contraction is assisted by the aggregates in the cement, equally, especially the coarse aggregates. Now you see, if it is therefore to be expected that the shrinkage will be largely dependent on total amount of water, that you all know, and the elastic modulus of the aggregate, that you also all know. And of course, there's a problem in lightweight aggregate, and many coarse aggregates which are subjected to moisture movement. That is also a problem. And another influence is your presence of gypsum. Gypsum, that is very important. We have to use it in a controlled manner. It may be noted that that the action of shrinkage compensator. You heard about shrinkage compensator, is it not? Is not, in fact, to directly inhibit the occurrence of drying shrinkage. Rather, the normal occurs when it is permitted to dry. So you can easily understand that during the fresh state, it helps a lot, the shrinkage inhibitors. So the total shrinkage will come down. So you can use it. Now the heat of hydration. Large masses of concrete generates substantial quantities of heat of hydration. You can always know in a dam construction, it's a huge problem. Many methods are tried to tackle this throughout the world, and that essentially heat of hydration can be reduced by reducing amount of tricalcium aluminate and tricalcium silicate present. That you also know, this common knowledge to everybody. Low heat cement produces less heat than OPC and spreads its heat generation over a longer time period to dissipate better. You can see you are taking longer time. So it should be noted that while low heat cement which we are using, normally we are using sulfate resin cement. Okay, there are many other solutions also. You see, fly ash is also equally useful for in connection to the heat generation. You can use fly ash to reduce the heat generation, but only thing is that if you use excess, then sometimes there's a problem, right? Not sometimes. There are many reasons which today I'll try to explain because we don't have much time. But anyway, sometime I'll express in detail. So limited use of fly ash is always good. The heat generation of blended cement, like your fly ash cement or the slag cement, substantially lower peak temperature than OPC. That we all know. Now you see this. Let us come to rheology, because you have to understand this rheology in a best possible way. Now relative density, that directly I'm saying compatibility, but the segregation and bleeding, see, I have connected to stability, and the viscosity, cohesion, and internal friction, that I have connected to mobility. And if you take all this together, stability, compatibility, and mobility, that is nothing but rheology of fresh concrete. It's a comparatively new term because it is not really discussed in detail in undergraduate courses. But anyway, it is coming up very fast, and people are in every time people are using the term rheology. Now you see this rheology, this minimum stress below which no flow occurs. That you all know, is it not? And the minimum stress is called yield stress for concrete. You normally heard about the yield stress term for steel, but it is now concrete, and it is represented by tau zero. Say, and the equation is that tau equal to tau zero plus mu gamma, right? Indicating the cohesion of the material. Mu is a constant, right, term. It is plastic viscosity, and gamma is the rate of shear. So these are the things is relatively new to the professionals, because we are not really dealing workability in this manner. So, but you will find that slowly all these things will be included. It is already included in research to a great extent. Now, all these parameters are to be optimized to achieve the desired flow characteristics and strength properties for a particular practice. That you have to understand, all these three parameters. This is possible by designing mix using different types of conventional and non-conventional ingredients, including chemical admixture, pasteurizers, and super pasteurizers. You see, we have in our department, we have rheometer, and we are regularly using it for this kind of measurements of all these typical three parameters, and then we try to analyze that exactly what is the status of the fresh concrete, and that is very, very important on the point of view of placing the at site and compaction, and later on its performance when it gets hardens. So this is very important. But today I'll not go in detail about the experimentation part of rheology. That someday we'll discuss. Now, new generation concrete, as you all know, that nowadays, as the pumping is very popular, pump concrete is very popular, so self-compacting concrete is very popular. So if you pump the concrete to the highest level, maybe a 20-story building at the highest level, you cannot carry the concrete on head. So what will happen? The concrete will reach there, and it will flow through a pipe, and this concrete, it will be distributed throughout the farm, and ultimately, due to its own weight, it will be compacted. So no compaction is required from outside. No compaction is required from outside with any vibrator or anything else. And if you finally check it, then you will find it is much better than this conventional concrete. And at the same time, you will be able to achieve very high strength and durability, ductility, and all these things. So this is the area. It is coming. It is already people are using it, but in 21st century it will be extremely popular. With definitely other kinds of concrete also coming. I'll come to that. Now you see this faster construction. You can pump it, so you can do it fast. And reduction in manpower, then better surface finish. Then you can easily place it, and your vibration requirement is not there, manual part, and the improved durability. And obviously, if you are not using vibrator, then there is no question of noise. Now you see there are 10 different tests which American Concrete Institute they recommended. These are the tests. I'll not go in detail of this test because I don't have much time, at least for today. That is, these are the tests. I'll just read out the SLAM flow, then T50, then J-ring, then V panel, and another V panel with another kind of setup, L box, U box, pill box, and all this. And we have all these things in our laboratory, and you will find it in the premier institutes also. So it is not that very new to us. We are also working on self-composting concrete. Now these are the 4 typical tests we normally do for consultancy, because many companies are coming to us for consultancy. These are the 4 tests we believe that if we do it and recommend them some mixed proportion for this self-compacting concrete, I think it is sufficient, and it is done for several companies successfully. And this is the kind of thing I wanted to show you, but probably Mr. Pillai will be giving me not more than another 15 minutes. So let me try how much I can cover. Now you see the SLAM flow test, that I can demonstrate later on sometime if I get time. And then similarly the V funnel test, right? This is also easily conducted, one can conduct. And then J-ring test, you can easily conduct. You see that how the concrete is flowing through the reinforcements. That's why this kind of setup is very important to understand it. And there are some other tests, U-box tests. These are also very important. And I'll not go in detail because if I try to discuss the detail of all the tests, then I'll be trapped. A lot of time will be taken, and Mr. Pillai will be unhappy with. I have to complete within the time frame. So you see, the acceptance criteria, though it's not in the Indian code, it's coming. It's coming. It is under developing stage. You see, the SLAM flow, which I told you, this is the filling ability. T50 SLAM flow is also another test of filling ability. J-ring, it is that I've showed you, that passing ability. V panel is the filling ability. Then V panel at T5 means 5 minutes. This is segregation. And the U box is also passing ability, right? So the American Concrete Institute, they have recommended maximum value and minimum value. So if you cross this maximum limit and the minimum limit, then it will be a problem, right? So you can easily understand that you have to fulfill this. You have to fulfill these criteria, because unless you fulfill these criteria, then you will not be able to say that it is fully self-compacting concrete. So these are the criteria, very, very important. Now you see, if you take, you've taken some mixes, different mixes, FA1, FA3, FA, like that, many. And then CG, GL, in the vertically, you can see mix ID. And this cement, fly ash, GGBS, all this ligaplins, metachiolin, like that, the sand, post segregate, and then the superpasteurizers and the viscosity modifying admixtures. These are also very, very important, because when you will be working with low water cement ratio, viscosity modifying admixture will help you like anything. The concrete which you are normally getting without viscosity modifying admixture, at a particular water cement ratio, and if we viscosity modifying admixture, it lasts like a fluid, just like a fluid. So that's why it can flow, and there will be no segregation because we have adjusted the different quantities properly so that the cohesion is there. So these are the things. After that, you see that whatever the mix I have shown, Islam is around 70. Then you see that the composite strength, it is just see 1 day, 3 day, 7 day, 28 day. You see it is 73, 66, minimum 65. Because whenever we are talking about it, now you see previously the American Concrete Institute used to say that M40 is the minimum grade for high performance concrete. Now slowly they have increased to M50 after successful research in for this development technology. And now really they not only the American Concrete Institute, other institutes, our Indian Concrete Institute, other, they are thinking why not is 65. So it is progressing very fast. After that, you see there is another series we have taken, and there are different types of materials, not exactly the same as the previous one. The quantities are different, and here that we got the result like this. Even up to 60, 35 to 80. So you can easily understand that just by considering different ingredients, and if you can cook it properly, then you will get the final result, whatever you want. That is not always in terms of the strength. It is the terms of workability. It is the in terms of ductility and durability. So that is now the technology has developed to that extent. And frankly speaking, when we discuss things like this, thinking that India is not at all, they are not developed. You come to Jadavpur University, meet group, you will get all technologies we have developed in our laboratory. And obviously, the other institutes, other premier institutes, they have also developed. You can go to them also. Now, you see that these are the, few results I thought that I'll be sharing. When I was discussing about our JU, definitely you have watched this, this data, and it is quite interesting. See, similar kind of data is there. I have compared, the self-compacting concrete with conventional concrete, So if we compare these two, then you will be able to understand there is a lot of advantage, huge advantage of self-compacting concrete. So I think that that we have understood self-compacting concrete. In ready-mix plant, they're using it. Sometimes some problems are coming, and that is also, when they mix it in the RMC plant, then it is fine. They have checked, but when they're taking it to the site, and when they're trying to put it in the container and prepare for the pumping, then they are facing some problem. The slump has reduced within this 45 minutes, 1 hour time. Sometimes there's a complaint. And of course, that problem also we can solve at site by adding some other admixtures or other purchases. That is not an issue, right? So we are now successfully using self-compacting concrete throughout the country, and especially in Kolkata. You see, next comes the use of fiber in self-compacting. You know that fiber concrete, you all know. You're familiar with that. But I am talking about fiber concrete in self, when you are using fibers in self-compacting concrete, because we are talking about high performance concrete. It is one of them. The resistance to microcracking, if you add fiber, toughness and post-failure ductility, impact resistance, and resistance to fatigue. These are the 4 major parameters, which we should check while, going for any experimentation or recommending or whatever you do with fiber in for self-compacting concrete. Now you see this kind of different fibers we have used. We got several projects from Government of India. We have got several students with the PhD, master's degree level on fiber concrete. So we have got that technology in Jadavpur University. The steel fibers, asbestos fiber, glass fiber, all these things, carbon fiber, natural fiber, natural fiber. You see, these are the types, typical, 6 millimeter length fiber, polypropylene fiber, 12 millimeter, that's the polypropylene fiber. One of our students, a very bright student, he used this particular fiber. And fiber geometry is important, the length, fiber type, I told you, aspect ratio, length by diameter ratio, fiber content, how much percentage, fiber orientation, because orientation is control. The fiber, when you are adding to concrete, then the fiber orientation cannot be controlled. But there are methods people tried. We can orient to some extent. The mixing process is very, very important. And you see, this is a different type of concrete. Naturally, mini slump cone test and mini V funnel test is required, and also self-compacting. And that's why I've added this to test. This is also, is available in our laboratory because our students, they worked on it. These are the typical 2 students of ours, masters, they are working. And these are the results we got. You see, in most of the cases, you can avoid bleeding. Just see the right, no bleeding, sometimes huge bleeding, like that. Whatever they observe. So the only thing is that I want to tell you that we can avoid almost totally the bleeding. So that is very important aspect. So this is the kind of finished. Sometimes people are saying that if fiber is added, the finishing is not good. So that's why I thought that I'll show you this piece of cube. Now you see, this is the kind of thing. Just observe the mix, right? And then the water processes ratio, then those of this normal soap processes, then viscosity modifier processes, and these are the V funnel results, slump flow results, and no bleeding. That is the most important thing. So even if we use fiber, if you can cook it properly with other ingredients, so you will definitely get very good concrete. And similarly, other things also we have tried and we found not always good. So what I'm showing you, all depends on how you are cooking it. So you have got different materials, maybe 10 materials, doesn't matter. Only thing that you get, number one, the proportion is very important. And at the same time, one should have a mixed design methodology. And the mixed design methodology is not only, based on particle size distribution, this, that. No. Only CV analysis, no. Nowadays, at least in our group, we have developed the mixed design methodology based on chemical composition. When we are using different things, then different types of reaction is taking place. So we have got a huge XRD and other kinds of tests, the same and all these things, and we are sure about the reaction, whatever taking place. So we have taken those things also in our mixed design methodology, and we have published papers. And I think slowly, the mixed design methodology is going to change based on chemical composition of the ingredients. Now you see, this is another kind of thing, the similar type of results. So this is the kind of fiber you have used. Just somebody is weighing it. You see. Now let me introduce you something about geopolymer concrete. You see, this geopolymer concrete, rather in many situations they are saying geopolymer cement, and I'm sure that the Ramco one day they will develop geopolymer cement. Maybe I don't know whether they are developing now also. So this geopolymer concrete, the geopolymer binders are synthesized by thermal activation of solid aluminosilicate source materials with an alkali metal hydroxide and silicate solution. Any alkali metal hydroxide, not all are same equally effective, and the silicate solution. And what you are doing, you are adding with solid aluminosilicate sources. That means, for example, 5S. So If we do it by adding this hydroxide silicate solution with fly ash, you will be able to form the gel, and you have got the aggregates. So if you mix the concrete, and if you do it properly, you will be very highly durable concrete, and also ductile concrete, and also very, very high strength. And this particular area, we have our department, I must say that, we are the pioneer, we can always claim that. And now also many people are doing it, but still, they are discussing with us when they are in problem. So we have, at least our department has published more than 50 to 100 papers, good papers, on this particular subject. Now you see that, and also produced a number of PhD also, master's degree. So huge, though it is not that popular in the industry, it will come. It will come. Now people are getting confidence. 2 companies, they have already started manufacturing. So anyway, I'll come to that later on. You see, the main problem is that when you are manufacturing cement, then you are producing huge amount of carbon dioxide, and this affects, you can say global and the global warming. You can easily understand. This is so we have to avoid this. And you see that this greenhouse emission is dangerous for this global warming problem, right? And you are using limestone for manufacturing cement, and if you can do something else, and if you can save amount of limestone, it's good for the future. Now it is environment friendly. The synthesized from waste material, fly ash, and which you said GGBS, I'm saying GBFS, ground blast furnace slag, metaculene, silica fumes, rice husk, easy to manufacture, and the most important thing is high performance. If we develop, this, or develop means we have already developed, and we have produced geopolymer up to M80, and the strength wise and the durability wise, everything is good. But slowly it will be popular in the market. In US, in Australia is already popular. Now I'm watching the clock. We don't have much time, so I'm just skipping all this chemical part of it, and just skipping this, right? Just see this particular slide. The Portland cement, you require 1450 degrees centigrade for calcination, right? And then hydration, and then your calcium hydroxide forms, CSA gel and calcium hydroxide forms. That is the about Portland cement. But you come to geopolymer, you are not to heat so much, because just mix those things, and you have to cure under a temperature of say 50 to 100 degrees centigrade. And now also we have developed a technology where this 50 to 100 degree temperature heating is not required. We can just do it like your normal concrete, which you are doing, and you will get it. And after polycondensation, the aluminum silicate gel will form, and which is the binder, and you see, just to compare the major difference, the manufacturing using your natural resources such as limestone, this, and here you are rather aluminum silicate waste material. So you are utilizing waste. This 1450, then there is no calcination stage, this not required. Then the CO2, obviously CO2 is less. Their hydrolysis, this is polycondensation. And the curing part, you may have to go for a thermal curing, but I told you that we could avoid that particular area also, right? Because that is also very important, because that is the requirement of the industry. I personally talked to the industry people, those who are using, and they said that, okay, sir, if you can do it like our conventional concrete, then we tried and we are successful. Now you see, these are the polymeric structures. These are different things. I am not coming. Someday we'll discuss. Now, you see the simple production technology and, earlier development of higher mechanical strength, first curing, because if you go for, this heat curing, you will do it. That, of course, you can do it for concrete also. Very little, drying shrinkage, low clip, extremely good resistance to sulfate, chloride, alkalis. Alkalis, this when you are adding fly ash, this total alkali, whatever the calcium hydroxide is consumed by. So there is no presence of alkali. So alkali cannot do any harm to the concrete. The excellent resistance to fire, it can withstand that. Many PhD students, they worked on it, and ultimately found that it is up to 1000 to 1200 degrees centigrade temperature. It is good, and the freeze storage is very good, and then alkali aggregate reaction and highly durable. So all these things are much better than the conventional cement because of the polymeric structure. It is CSH gel, here it is different, and here the gel is a polymeric one. That is why you are getting the huge difference, and you are getting better concrete. Now you see that normally the concrete, we are getting from thermal power plant. Huge amount of fly ash is coming every day. It is increasing. Only 30%, 40%, I don't know, Mr. Pilla will be able to say, used in this cement manufacturing, construction, and the block title, etc. Where the other remaining part will go. So automatically, this is a choice, geopolymer. And you see that this fly ash, which is rich in silica and aluminum, has the potential for full utilization to use source material for geopolymer. Told you, but mind it, silica and aluminum. Fly ash is very rich in silica and aluminum. That's why it's happening. Now, this particular geopolymerization reaction, it's a multi-phase reaction, exothermic, and a bit complicated. We will add fly ash, it will dissolve, and after that, the polyconditions will start, and we will ultimately get the gel, and we will be able to produce a concrete. So I'm not going in detail. So these are the detailed things. I thought that I'll be able to share it, but I know that time 1 hour is not always sufficient, and it is not always good to discuss about all these things in a particular lecture. If we want to discuss something about reaction, we'll discuss only on reaction. That is not an issue, right? But I'm giving you an idea about it so that you can understand how good it is. So things I wanted to, I can discuss, but now it's not time. You see, this is a particular flow chart. If you really want to produce a very good geopolymer, then this particular flow chart you have to understand properly. So when any researcher is coming to us, we first give them this particular flow chart, and we make them understand all this sort of, and they can take bigger step, right? So this is a very good table, which is useful to this geopolymer people. You see, these are the main parameters. If you use sodium hydroxide, then that more and more is important. Then this sodium silicate and sodium hydroxide ratio, that is important. Then sodium silicate and sodium hydroxide total divided by fly ash, or if you use some other pozzoning material, that ratio is important. The most important is silica aluminum ratio, very important, and water geopolymer, solid ratio. This is also very important. So we have used, from Kolaghat, from Titagarh, mostly the fly ash we have used from there, and the activators we have collected from the industry. And fine aggregate and the admixtures, we have used different types of admixtures, and in different proportions we have used it. This mix 1, mix 2, mix 3, like that. This is in detail, but it will take a long time to describe you all these things. But it is not that we have taken only one step. We have taken 10 steps and we are trying to make it popular in the industry. And maybe another 5 steps is required from the industry people to make it a full success. And the research should go on because always we want to produce better and better and better material. You see, mixing process, this is also sometime we'll discuss. And the specimens and all these things, this is the interesting card. The composite strength versus molarity. We have that. We have this card. This is our JU product. JU graph, whatever you say, because I am really proud of JU. And you see, the composite strength and the the silicate and the hydroxide ratio, sodium silicate and sodium ratio, that is also important. But you see, at a particular ratio, it is giving you maximum. After that, this is coming down. There are reasons. So this is another composite strength versus fly ash activity ratio. This is another composite strength versus this water and this Na2O ratio. So these are the graphs. It is not one PhD student, not one master's student, huge. And we have developed all these things, and we can advise other people. We are advising, and this is a typical graph. Very interesting. Silica aluminum ratio, I told you. And the aluminum ratio is important, I told you. To go, and this 45, 30, 15, these are the grade. These are the grade of concrete. So if you want M45, accordingly, you take that particular contour line type, and if you choose silica aluminum ratio 2, then what will be the approximate sodium, aluminum ratio that you will get. Now, with your other knowledge and other, mixing and all these things, you will be able to produce something, and through trials, you will be able to achieve also. So we have worked up to this, and all these things. It is not just particle size, this is that. It is all depends on chemical reaction which took place. And other concrete tests. After that, we could produce this. This kind of graph, I can tell you that very rarely available. I don't know. I have not. We have developed, and we are also working in recycle aggregate concrete, fiber concrete, high performance geopolymer concrete, rheology of concrete, and bacterial concrete. In bacterial concrete, one of our colleague, Dr. Saurabh Mandal, he has worked a lot, right? And these are the books I have with different persons. We have got 6 books on different types of high performance concrete, with geopolymer and all these things. These are the 2 books. Second one is fiber concrete with Pulak Munshi. First one is Rabindra Thakur. And third book is this other one, Rabindra Thakur. And another one is Amyo Samanto, that is finite limit analysis of RC structure. And then another on durability and all these aspects, then will be Suresh Soksom and Partho Ghosh. And another book is there with our colleague Santosh Das and Rabindra Thakur, that is on fiber reinforcement compacting concrete. So these are about our company. This is the few researchers who were associated with our JU group. Our JU group is very strong. I must say very, very strong in the country. Then Dr. Saurabh Mandal, Partho Ghosh, Rabindra Thakur, Pulak Munshi, Somen Saha, Dr. Amyo Samanto, Dr. Suresh Singh, Dr. Qureshi, Dr. Arundev Gupta, Professor Dr. Kollan Mandal, and then Dr. Devabrata Datta, Dr. Kushal Ghosh, Dr. Moinak Mollik, and Dr. Pankaj Mitra. There are other students also, because if I try to list out that, in that case it may cross 50. So that is the problem. Anyway, whatever I wanted to tell you in this particular webinar, I have already discussed that. The only thing that I must at least state this, that one should be never complacent, but should be ever alert for new problems, new solutions. Please remember this, especially those who are junior. And with this, to this session, thank you very much.